But I can't go into the details of that.
Understood. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Patrice? Or?
So in listening to everyone, it seems like we're all pretty interconnected. And in what I do in social work area is I use people like Shanika for the health promotion, because currently what I'm working in is Early Head Start. We keep track of all the things that the immunizations and the things that the parents need to keep track of. I have been at homes where a child hurt their finger and the fire department was there trying to figure out what was going on and why they were really needed. I've worked in domestic abuse where I've dealt with women who, when they've checked in, have had drawer full of medications and all kinds of other issues that are going on in their lives that meds are needed for. Even pastoral services are needed in that area. Law and nursing and doctors are needed. So I think we're also interconnected in what we all do. A day in the life of what I do are varied depending on what's going on, but like Samuel said, sometimes it's really boring. Basically, you're doing paperwork a lot of the day. But some days, depending on who I'm working with, if it's teens, I might be dealing with pregnant mothers and their boyfriends and domestic abuse that they're going through. Early Head Start, I'm dealing with the kids or immigrant women and men who come from different countries, Nepal, people from Syria and different places like that who are trying to figure out how and where they fit in the system and still don't know the language. So I do all of that. I've had to take first aid, CPR, and learn all of that, plus know how to manage myself around the different people that may have money, that may not have money, where do they fit in all of this. So you have to like people, you have to want to be with people, and you have to want to understand their poverty and how they get to where they're at. So I deal with people who have, one day I went into a house of a person that I was working with, and I knocked on the door and I could tell something was wrong immediately. Over the weekend, she had thought about trying to kill herself, and she had broken the mirror and had a piece of the glass that she wanted to use as a weapon of destruction for herself. So we had to talk through that. So you have to be a person who not only understands people, understands their issues, but has the ability to talk and empathize with people. You cannot deal with people unless you can find something in yourself to be able to connect and empathize with people. And that's with teens, that's with older adults, that's with people in between. You have to be able to empathize, not just with females, but with males. And I think, and you're probably going to get to this, but if you don't, I think as Adventists, there are going to be a lot of issues that come into your life that we as Adventists, or just Christians, we don't believe in. That goes against what we believe. So where do you stand with that? And how do you deal with people who have lifestyle issues that are definitely not something that we can condone? But how do you deal with that? So you have to be really secure about who you are and what you believe when you go into houses, and your values and where you stand, and knowing that you can't put your values on people, but knowing that those people need God. You can't say it, but how do you work with them in a godly way? And then you have to know that confidentiality issues are there, and ethics issues, as Greg has said. So there are all those things. And then how do you keep moving? Enriching yourselves, and as Shanika said, you have to love to learn. You can stop at one place, but you have to personally push yourselves to keep growing and keep learning too. So,
thank you. And Daryl, the basketball.
Well,
so
I was going to address that afterwards.
Okay.
Unless you want to do it.
Go ahead. So a day in the life of your experience.
I never played professional basketball, but I played collegiate basketball, and My day consisted of going to class, starting class at about 6 a.m. And then just going through the course of classes. Basketball practice was about 2 o'clock, and we practiced for about 2 to 3 hours. So it took, you know, no doubt a lot of dedication, perseverance, and commitment to playing that game. So that's basically it.
Thank you. Day in the life.
Well, a day in my life is not very typical for lawyers, because at this point in my practice I have 12 employees and a lawyer working under me, and my practice is so focused I just do one thing: I sue people who don't pay their credit card bill. That's it. So I have had a more typical practice where I had divorce cases and criminal cases, and you know, in those days my day might have been wake up at 6 a.m., go into the office, prepare for the day's court, be in court maybe all day, get back at 5 o'clock and return phone calls until 7 o'clock, and then start preparing for court the next day at 7 o'clock and go home at 9 o'clock and wake up at 6 and come back and do it again. And that is a typical schedule if you're a trial lawyer in trial. But now my life is paperwork, talk to employees about how to do stuff the right way, solve issues between employees about, you know, whose fault it was that something happened wrong or so forth. Talk to lawyers about judges and how, yes, I think he's having a grumpy day today, but you still need to go there and represent our interests professionally. Sometimes I still have conversations with angry lawyers or angry debtors. People are not always happy to hear that they owe a debt and they haven't paid it, and that I'm going to do something like garnish their wages or take their bank savings. So sometimes we have to have, you know, difficult conversations about how that's going to go, and if you're doing it right, you're preserving other people's dignity. You're letting them know, look, this is about money. It's not about you. It's not about who you are. And you know, we can either come to a solution or not, but maybe you file bankruptcy. But this isn't about your dignity or who you are. This is just about a credit card bill. So those are some of the difficult conversations that I have often.
Thank you.
A day in the nurse's life is going in and getting your assignment. In Salt Lake area, most nurses get 4 patients, and then you have to plan which patient to see first, give them all their medications, attend to all the family needs, and some families are very difficult to deal with, and you have to really be able to do all that. So I did those many years ago. And if you're the educator, you're planning what really the nurses need to be educated on, and we do all that with the research or the data that is being collected by Medicare, Medicaid systems, and when they think that patients are falling more frequently, then they want the nurse educator to talk about patient falls. Whatever the trend is going is where the educator works. But right now, as a nurse manager, I don't have a day in my life because my work is 24 hours every day. Most of the things I do is depends on what is going on. Sometimes it has to do with the patient. If the patient is patients come in, I have to be able to determine the acuity. We work with a word called acuities. So you look at acuities means that which patient needs a lot of nursing care. So I have to quickly figure out which patients have high acuities and push the most experienced nurses there, and which patients are getting ready to go home and give them the less experienced nurses. And this keeps changing. The patients that were low acuity at the beginning of their shift can suddenly